How do I?
Okay, so now I want to go to source.
See you then. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the multi-tiered system of supports, MTSS, the 5 W's of math intervention. I am Erica Francis, one of your presenters today.
And
Good
I am
morning.
Dr. Coleman. I am another one of your presenters today.
We have an awesome facilitator, Mr. Michael Fowler. He's working behind the scenes to keep us on track. And we just want to thank you for joining us today. If you please would join us in Pear Deck at joinpd.com and use the class code that you see on your screen, we will get started when we have majority of our participants logged in. And while you are doing that, we also have a participants guide that will also be dropped in the chat. Again, we want to welcome you to Math Interventions today, and we hope that you learn something new or refresh your learning in this session. Again, join us in Pear Deck at joinpd.com and enter the following code to participate in the presentation today. Thank you, Ms. Barry Thorne, for dropping that participants guide. Thank you so much. Please take an opportunity to download the participants guide. It will be a place for you to take notes and keep track with all of the learning that you will have here this morning. I want to honor your time. So, Mr. Fowler, we have 28 people connected, and we currently have 70, how many participants? Okay. We're going to ask that everyone mute their mic.
I guess I didn't update my application. So she thought I was coming from Humble, so she thought.
So we're going to.
Good morning. I'm so sorry. You said mute your mic, and I do understand. I missed the code. Sorry.
It is in the chat.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. So to honor your time, we're going to go ahead and get started this morning. We need additional participants to go ahead and get logged into the Pear Deck. We're not quite at 50% of our participants in there yet, but I'm going to go ahead and move on with We've already done our introductions, and we'll move on. So our norms for our virtual session this morning, we just would like everyone to be present and actively engaged. We will be taking a survey for MTSS and also an attendance link at the end of the session, and we want to make sure everyone gains credit for being present and engaged in the session this morning. We're going to honor your time, and so we would like to make sure we get started, complete activities on time, and all of that depends on your participation. Please make sure you mute your microphone unless you want to respond. You can unmute, you can use the raise your hand feature. You can also post questions and responses in the chat. And we just want to thank you again for being present with us this morning. Again, we always like to share about our wonderful learning that we have going on. And if you know HISD, you know we like to tweet, 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 tweet. So please take out your phones, take pictures, and tweet about the new learning that you are engaged in this morning. Please tweet us at HISD_IAT and at HISD_OSP. And thank you again for being here this morning. And we just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. You're going to hear that a lot, because we know that you have plenty options to be at many different places. So our icebreaker this morning is a little this or that activity. We would like you to look at the pictures that will be on the screen in your Pear Deck, and you'll place a dot over the item that you prefer. We just want to see our commonalities and also our differences and have a little fun. Uh-oh, so pineapple on a pizza is great, or pineapple on a pizza is an abomination. What do you prefer? So we're going to give you about 30 seconds in your Pear Deck. Place a dot over your preference. Let's see who likes pineapple on their pizza. Oh, wow. We're like split, guys. That's interesting. And we still have responses coming in. Thank you guys for participating. So I'm going to say it's a 50-50 split, guys. We got 53 out of 62 participants, and it looks a little in the middle. But I think more people like pineapple on their pizza. That's interesting. All right, you have 3 options here. Let's see who's technology savvy. Do you like to tweet? Do you like the beautiful pictures on Instagram? Or you like the fake news on Facebook? Looks like Facebook and Instagram are about a 50-50 split. Not that many tweets. Okay, a couple tweeters here. That's interesting. Thank you for that. Let's see what our next options are. Uh-oh. Talking on the phone or texting. Where are we with this one, guys? Looks like a 50-50 split. I know myself, I'm old school. I prefer talking on the phone. I feel like for the amount of time that it takes you to text, you could just pick up the phone and call. Dr. Coleman, where are you on that one?
I am a person who loves to actually text, so I'm a texter.
Okay. Uh-oh, let's see. Who's still hooked on cable? Who's streaming? Let's see your responses, guys. Oh, that's a nice split. We're almost even across the board, but I think Netflix has a little bit more. Okay, I think it's Netflix for the win. The last time it was Hulu and Disney Plus. Okay, that's interesting. Netflix have a lot of good shows. I love their documentaries. And finally, oh, not finally. It's the next to the final. iPhone wins again. Really? All right. I'm an Android user. You can tell, right? And finally, our next one. Oh, we have one more. Starbucks for the win. We could have predicted that one, right? Finally, our last one. I think I've said that 3 times already, right? I was ready for this one. Okay. What do you guys like? Which team's the best? Let's win again for the second time in a row. I'm a Texans fan. I guess you could tell that too, right? Dr. Coleman, which team?
I don't have a team, not for Texas or not the Texans or Cowboys. I won't say.
Mr. Fowler, which team are you?
Mm-mm. I'm staying out of that.
I am a Texans fan. Texans all the way.
All right, guys, thank you for breaking the ice with us with that. We just wanted to get to know our participants and kind of see the things that you like and that you're interested in. It's great to see how many people have a lot of things in common. And then I'm just amazed at how many people like pineapple on their pizza. I mean, I'm going to try it, I promise. Okay, so I'm going to let Dr. Coleman take over right now. She's going to walk you through a nice discussion, and I'll be back in a few minutes.
All right, guys, it's great to see you guys this morning. I am going to have a discussion with you guys to where we're going to watch a video. But before we watch the video, there are 4 questions I want you to think about before looking at this video and thinking about the whole child. So we're going to be talking about the MTSS framework. And so to lead us into this work, I want you to think about when looking at this video, you're going to meet a student named Valerie, okay? And so we want to know, what if we looked at the bigger picture? What if we considered the whole child? What if all the experts came to the table to discuss Valerie? What if Valerie was having trouble with verbiage acquisition or if she has trauma? So really think about those questions, and those questions will be posted in the chat as well too, as you are looking at this video and listening to what is going on in regards to Valerie. So again, the questions are, what if we looked at the bigger picture? What if we considered the whole child? What if all the experts came to the table to discuss Valerie? And what if Valerie was having trouble with verbiage acquisition or trauma?
There you go.
Okay, now how
When looking at this, Valerie is a 3rd grade student at Happy Elementary. She works well with her classmates and she does try her best. But within that, as you can see, she's a student who struggles because she just came to the US 2 years ago and she's failing her classes. She's sad because she's trying hard, but she is not successful, and her teachers are concerned that she possibly has a learning disability. So, with that being stated and going back to those questions and having that discussion, what if we looked at the bigger picture, the whole child, making sure that we came to the table for Valerie as all the experts that dealt with Valerie, and what if she was having trouble with that verbiage acquisition? So we can start with the first question. When looking at the bigger picture, and I know we have a lot of participants, so I would love to hear from anyone who would like to share their thoughts. You can raise your hand. You can put your answers in the chat. Those responses just to have this conversation when we're talking about making sure we reach her as for the whole child. And it's okay if you don't know. It's fine. We're here to help you. We're here to support you. We're here to have that conversation with you guys as well too. Mhm. Right, and definitely, and so I'm glad you said that, Ms. Dixon, because we want to see how she's feeling about learning. Because if she is possibly having some social emotional issues with the learning and knowing that she's behind, that could definitely impact what she is doing academically as well. Thank you for your comment. I do appreciate that. That is so true. Because if a student is not feeling good about themselves, that can definitely make them become more internal within their learning. And you want to see progression with what she's doing. Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Moulton. You are absolutely correct. And so within that MTSS framework, we definitely look at the whole child on the social, emotional, academic, and behavioral side. Yes, and if we do give them that differentiated instruction, Ms. Hernandez, you will see where you're meeting the students at their level. Absolutely. I do agree, Ms. King. Thank you. You all are giving great feedback and participation within this discussion that we are definitely having. Yes, and yes, having that consistent praise will continue to help her progress and give her that confidence that she needs in her learning. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Salazar, I do agree. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and continue move on. You can keep giving your feedback and your comments in, and which leads into what we're going to be doing today. And so we're going to be understanding the RTI, understanding what RTI is within this MTSS process and framework, as well as implementing math interventions within the framework, as well as giving an overview of progress monitoring. So we're going to talk about first what is MTSS? And so MTSS is the multi-tier systems of support when we're encompassing the whole child for all children, not just tier 2 or tier 3 as we've known before, but also tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. And the purpose of that framework is that we're again encompassing the whole child to where we're preventing, enriching, and intervening for all students, no matter where they are, to meet them at their need level. So within this, we're gonna have a breakdown as to what verbiage that will be used in regards to just tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. That has changed. So for all students, they will receive core instruction, which is your universal instruction, to where you're given effective group tier 1 instruction when all students receive this instruction from the universal academic screening, as well as just your regular academic interventions for students who may be struggling at your very base level. As you continue on and see more students who may be at risk, you're talking about those targeted students to where they're tier 2, they have that specific small group intervention, and you would do this small group interventions with them and progress monitoring for these students on a bi-weekly basis. And this is just to make sure that you're closing the gaps for those students who are possibly 1 grade level to 1.5 grade levels behind where they are academically, in what grade level they're actually in. And then your tier 3 students are your students who are 5%. And this is where your most intensive instruction will come, to where it's specific to the students' needs, definitely based on those whole RTI meetings happening with them, as well as actual customized intensive intervention plans, to where you would do a weekly progress monitoring for these students. So again, your universal is for all students, and that's 80% of your core instruction, 15% for your tier 2 that are targeted students, and then your intensive is your tier 3, which is 5%. So just to have an definition of your universal instruction, this is where it basically is a supplement of your core programs for all students. All students that you touch, see, and that you teach within your classroom. Then you have your tier 2, which is your targeted intervention, and these are for to help prevent and remediate deficit skills for students who are, again, somewhat below grade level, like 1 grade level or 1.5 grade levels below where they currently are. And then your intensive intervention for students who are significantly below grade level, which is your tier 3. So now, based on that, do you have any questions about what your universal, your targeted, or your intensive is before we move on as to what intervention actually looks like? Because I know we have a lot of people in our session. I want to make sure that everything is covered. Is this all academic based? Yes, it is all academic based on your core content as well as your behavior. We want to make sure, like I said, again, we're encompassing the whole child. Thank you for that question.
Okay, thank you for the answer. And just to clarify my question, I was referring to when they were talking about the skills or below grade level, things like that. They're only referring to the academic progress of the child, or they're actually talking about character and social skills as well.
So we're going to be talking about the whole child, so that plays a part as well too. But right now, this is the math portion of it, but there's also you're having your behavior side, because again, academics is not just the only part that you will deal with a child. Behavior is included as well.
Absolutely. And so RTI in general is for the whole child, not just academic.
Right.
Excellent. All right, thank you.
No, not a problem. Great question.
So Coach Mike, if you want further information on that, you can look in one source. They do have the MTSS for behavior being offered as well.
Okay, thanks for time.
So what is your question in regards to 80% in regards to the tier 1, Mr. Elroy?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily a question
Mhm.
or it's just the trend that I've been seeing that most of the time I think 80% would probably be in the perfect world, because I think it's a little bit more skewed towards the tier 2s than the tier 3s, especially as of late.
Oh, yes, you are correct, but that is the goal, that we want to have 80%. That is what you are actually looking at. And so, which is why when we talk about your tier 2 and your tier 3, if you look at how we want to try to encompass the whole 100% within that. Now, everyone will always still get tier 1 instruction, no matter what tier you're at. But yes, the goal is definitely to have that concrete, to where everyone is getting at least 80%, yes, and understanding what is going on at that level. Okay. All right, so now we're moving on as to what does intervention look like? And these are great questions that you're definitely asking me. So intervention starts at the student level, which may be below the current grade level. So if you do have a student who is in 5th grade and they're at a 3rd grade level, you would definitely be intervening at their level. And it is data driven based on the deficit or the skill that that student does need to work in. In addition to that, you will have small groups of 3 to 5 students, because you want to make sure that that student has that attention that is needed to be able to close those gaps at whatever deficit skill it is. In addition to that, of having flexible grouping. As those students continue to progress and grow, their groups will definitely change. And they'll change based on your progress monitoring of what you're seeing with those students happening. For your tier 2, it would be every 2 weeks. Your tier 3 would be every week. For progress monitoring in regards to your tier 1 students, that is on a as needed basis in regards to that. So yeah, we are going to talk about this picture. What do you see in regards to this picture? What can you tell me, give me some feedback in regarding that? Brain puzzle. Yeah. Okay. So what are some words in regards to intervention that would help you fill in those gaps or close those gaps? Or what could those gaps do? Missing pieces, some learning gaps, okay, a puzzle, absolutely. So when it comes to interventions, the first thing I can think about is a brain and it has some missing pieces, okay, connect. I would also bridge, beautiful, thank you. It could also not be gaps, just white. Okay, that is true too. It could be those white color pieces, because definitely piecing together, beautiful, okay. So when it comes to interventions, I'm gonna think I need to have students. And students, I also need to have teachers. Okay. Connect. Okay. So we'll keep having them come in. Beautiful. So within that, we want to also make sure you understand for the purpose of interventions, we want to give you some words that you really need to think about and hone in when looking at that, because these are all true things that you need to have with that. So we've created a list of words that you really should use when it comes to interventions and what you're supposed to do within that. So next, we're going to share what these words are and how we put that puzzle together. So the words are academics, behavior, data, designated supports, focus skills, growth, IAT, individualized progress monitoring, resources, RTI, small group, students targeted, and teachers. And you want to make sure that you really focus on your small group to make sure that you use all of these words as a resource to be able to connect with you as far as using that data and that designated support to hone in your targeted skills for progress monitoring for your students. Yes, differentiation is a huge piece of that because you're going to meet the students at their need level. Thank you for your participation. Okay, so we're going to talk about the why.
Right here.
So why do we need intervention? Why do we need to intervene? When you look at the following picture, and I know some of you have seen it before, we have some uh, kids trying to look at a baseball game on a field. And what we notice is that on the equality side, all the students have one box. But we know that this is not helpful to two of the other kids because they still cannot really see above the fence. The kid in the red shirt can see a little bit. The kid in the purple shirt definitely can't see at all. And so the kid in the red shirts needs one additional box to help him see over the fence to see the game clearly with no obstructions. And of course, the kid in the purple shirt needs two boxes. What we think about as far as interventions is concerned is it's not a one size fit all type of program. All students have individual needs, have different gaps, and need to be serviced according to their abilities. So we really want to make sure that during your intervention time that we're thinking about equity and not equality. So again, we're thinking about equity and not equality. I want to give you guys a minute. You can unmute your mic and just tell me your thoughts on this.
Yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite pictures. Looking at the difference between equality and equity. I also noticed that it's the same amount of work on both ends, in the sense that it's three boxes on the left, it's three boxes on the right, but it's just how you distribute your efforts to make sure that everybody reaches the goal. I think is also I don't know, the whole picture is dope.
Awesome, awesome. Anyone else would like to respond?
I'm just going to add, think in terms of the equity portion of it. You know that when it comes to equity, we have we have three different tiers in our system of learning. We have tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. And you know that when it comes to the blue, the person in the blue, they didn't need any support. When it comes to the one in red, you know, it needed one level of support, and the one in purple, of course, two additional levels of support. Just think of it like this. You have a picture and you also know mentally tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, blue, red, and purple. You know that your tier 3 is going to need more support. So always think when you're in your classrooms, when you have your roles and you're assisting and teaching your students, that when it comes to tier 3, that you automatically know that more support will be required of that child.
Ms. Gutierrez in the chat said that equal opportunities and support for everyone. That is correct. Ms. Latrina King also stated that the goal is for everyone to see. Right. The goal is for everyone to learn. Modifications were made to help everyone see. Another thing I'll just throw out there, when I'm working with new teachers who are going through their ATCP program, when they see this, another analogy I try to get them to think about is we all wear shoes, right? But we all have different size shoes, right? So we could never just get in the line and say, you get a 10, you get a 10, you get a 10, you get a 10, when you might have some people that wear a 6, a 7.5, a 8, a 12, or a 14. Everybody doesn't just get the same shoe. Right. So we have to make sure that you get your correct shoe size so that your feet are comfortable for you. Same thing with intervention. We have to make sure that you get the interventions that you need to be able to help you grow and sustain in your learning. So thank you guys for that feedback. Right. Always make an adjustment so that our kids are comfortable in learning. No child left behind. I love all of the responses in the chat. Thank you so much for your participation. Okay, so thinking about interventions and specifically with a lens on math, we have some essential building blocks for math success. And if you look at this triangle, what you see at the bottom of this triangle really speaks to number sense. And the reason for that is because if you do not have number sense and if you do not have a solid foundation in fluency, everything else you do in math will be a little difficult because if you know anything about math, it builds on itself, right? So number sense is at the bottom. You have to know what to do with those numbers before you can even attempt to really get into measurement in geometry or algebra or data and analysis. So if you look at the foundational skills, number value is one of the most important. I need to know, I have to know what values of numbers are. Place value, adding and subtracting, multiplication and dividing, and then logic, what to do with those numbers. The number sense is like the be all to everything. You can't build a house on sand, on unsolid, unstable foundation. They lay concrete, they lay brick. That foundation must be solid for you to be able to build that house or make progress. And so that's the thought process behind math intervention. And that's why with the MTSS framework, we try to focus on those focus and foundational skills to help kids strengthen their mathematical foundation. So who are we talking about? Of course, we all know we're talking about our scholars, but which ones? So our tier 1, our universal scholars, that's every single student that's enrolled in a school in any district. All students are required to receive a free and appropriate education with high quality evidence-based instruction. All students, everybody gets tier 1. It's with academic and behavior instruction. It's differentiated for all students. The curriculum is aligned with state standards. It meets grade level requirements for academic and behavior. Again, there's a separate training for MTSS for behavior. If you want to know more about it, I suggest you go into OneSource and look for it and go ahead and take that one so you can have additional tools to your tool belt. And so next we have our tier 2, which is our targeted instruction. At the tier 2 level, those are students who receive the tier 1 instruction, but I had some gaps which I didn't understand everything. So I might need a small reteach. I might need something explained to me in a different way. I might need to use some type of support or evidence-based strategy to kind of help clear up my misunderstanding, and then I can move on with academics and behavior with academic and behavior tasks. That also might not happen directly in a whole group setting. It could be an in-class push-in, it can be a pull-out, that can happen in different ways. Next would be our tier 3, our intensive instruction. And this is the level where our scholars need the most support. So when they need the most support, that means I have received my tier 1 instruction. I have also received my tier 2 targeted interventions, and I'm still not being successful. That means I need more. So that also is a red flag that I have more than just a few deficits, areas, skill deficit areas. I might have more, right? So that means that I might need additional one-on-one instruction. I may need supplemental aids. My teacher might need to pull me to a small group and use manipulatives, go back in math to using concrete, and then move to more abstract thinking. I might need more reminders, more time to get instruction and work done. But intensive is our scholars that need the most assistance and the most help and the most from us. It's the most work, right? It's where we have to really dig in and scaffold and differentiate to help students and drill down to where they are to help them grow. So how do we determine who receives small group intervention? Yes, we could give it to every kid, but does every kid need it? No. Again, we're thinking about that equity. And so with that, we use in the interventions department, we use our intervention tiering report and Renaissance. And we're going to take a look at those reports to show you how we identify who receives small group math intervention. So first off, the intervention tiering report is a report that it generates all kids, tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. The students are tiered, are likely tiered in this report, weighted on various data points. There's a formula that is used. It's also in conjunction with many other different things. And you will see on the next screen that the tiering report gives the student's likely tier, the skill deficit area, like what they, and then recommended resources. So if you see down here, there's a kid there that has fluency, and then there's recommended resources next to it. So it uses, the intervention tier report uses multiple pieces of data. It identifies the student's likely tier for intervention and also the deficit skill. It gives you a starting point of where to identify who needs intervention. Our next report is the Universal Screener, Renaissance 360. Again, we take this Universal Screener 3 times a year, beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of the year. And I would like to say that one of the messages that we're trying to send out is to make sure that when you're in the classroom, the students are taking this screener as serious as any other classroom, campus, or district assessment. We're trying to make sure that it is given with, I would say fidelity, but I said I was going to change that word, that it's been implemented with integrity, right? That we're really putting forth our best effort when we're taking our screeners, because this identifies the focus skills that we need to help make that solid foundation.
So within that, you're going to be able to access Renaissance, and you'll access Renaissance through Canvas. And you'll use 4 different reports mainly that you'll need to pin when you do have that access after you have done your Canvas training of your STAR screening report, the STAR record book, the instructional planning student report, as well as the instructional planning class report. And we will go over those things in a few minutes. So we have a question in the chat. Let's see. One thing that I would definitely do is just to go ahead and let your students know that if you can be present when you are given the test and different things of that nature, because I don't know if someone else is giving them or administering the test to them, and just let them know that it is vital in regards to them taking their time with the test and just making sure that it's just something important to know exactly where their level is, because if it's not at their level, then it'll be skewed data in regards to this. So just letting them know, that's an important piece as a starting point of where they can really close those gaps.
So, Ms. Wallace, I just wanted to respond to your message. I understand that you often have difficulty with students taking the screener seriously. My experience on the campus is that when to me, it comes from the top down. When your administration um, sends out the message that the BOY, MOY, and the EOY are just as important of assessments as any other district assessments, then kids tend to fall in line. But you can also communicate that in your classroom. I would most definitely let my students know that this determines tutoring. This might help me determine who has to work one-on-one, in small group, and all of those things. And also let them know that this also helps you identify what they need so that you can help them grow and be successful. I think it's a communication thing, and building that campus culture, classroom culture, and climate for it will set the tone as to how the students perform on the assessment.
Yeah, thank you for your response. I find my biggest challenge is really because I teach Algebra 1, so it's primarily freshmen. And for a lot of them, they take it seriously the first time, but then especially those students that get identified as being intervention or urgent intervention necessary that have to take not only the BOY, MOY, and EOY, but also the progress monitoring in the middle. By the third, fourth, fifth time they're taking it, they're just done. So it's like maybe I can get them once or twice, but I often see a decline actually at the EOY because it's the end of the year and they just don't care anymore.
So just definitely going back to that culture and climate with that, and just, giving reiteration to those different things. But one way you can definitely look at that is also using this Renaissance screener report. So with that being stated, using the actual report. This is a typical picture of what you will see at the end of the year. So normally when you do get this report, it'll be inverse. So just know that this is the goal that you want to use. And then you can also use, as Coach Mike stated, incentives and different things in that to see how students are growing as you look at your BOY, your MOY, and your EOY, so they can see different things that, yes, the work that they're doing does help with that as well too. And then moving on to our next report would be your STAR record book. So when you're talking about grouping students and different things of that nature, you could use this as a way to group your students in small groups based on their ability levels as well. And then also, as students are changing groups and different things, you can use that as an incentive to say, hey, if you're progressing and intervening in your groups and you go to another group, then there's an incentive that is tied to that. And when you are grouping your students, you want to make sure that you are grouping them, and you can go to the next report based on 100 points within their score level of one another, because you want their ability levels to be aligned with one another. So for access to the ITR report, going back to that real quick, the campus liaison does have access to that. And sometimes you may not have access to that, but you can definitely ask them to provide that information to you in regards to getting access to that ITR report. But the administration at your campus does have this information, and they can share it with you. Ms. Gonzalez. Does that answer your question? Okay. All right.
Good.
So now, that's okay. So now, your instructional planning group. So again, just, making sure that you're aligning your scale score of students together and you're grouping them properly. Here's just another report that you can definitely use. And then next report would be your student instructional planning report. This is an individualized student planning report, which is really, really vital when you're talking about intervening with students at their particular grade level. So this is an example of a fifth grade student who's on a third grade level. So that intervention and focus skill would be representing multiplication facts. Again, those foundational skills of various ways of how to actually do that. You can also use this report as well for parent conferences and different things of that nature, or even have student conferences to let that student know where they are and how they can grow, so they can be an active participant within where they're trying to go, so they can see their progressions and move forward as well. And then your class instructional plan report. This is where you can look at focus skills where deficits as a whole within your classroom that you can work with students on in regards to seeing what the need is of the class as a whole. And definitely if it is a high need for everyone in the classroom, you would want to make sure that you need to go back and probably give them some other tier one instruction in regards to that if all of the students are really needing help within a particular skill level.
I guess just a thought, which one of those reports do you think will be most helpful to you in planning for math interventions in your classroom and easy for you to use? You can place your answer in the chat. Thank you guys for that. The instructional planning report. Okay, are the percentiles compared across your class or the district? So for the class instructional planning report, you'll see it, but the student instructional planning report, it'll show where the district is on their chart. So they'll have like a line graph and you'll see it on there on the report. Okay, thank you guys.
Okay, so now moving on to your grouping mat, and we're gonna talk about how this will look in your classroom, and we'll have an activity that is tied to this. So basically the way works is across, you see that you have 3 tiers. You have the students grouped based on your green, your blue, your yellow, and your red, just like they would in Renaissance. And so your tier 1 green students, tier 1 blue, tier 2 yellow, and tier 3 red. So within that, if I am going to talk about my groups 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I'm looking at the columns down, those are all mixed ability groups. So there are 5 students, 2 tier 1 tier 2, and 2 tier 3. They sit at the same table, such as in group 2, at table 2, 2 tier 1s, 1 green and 1 blue, 1 yellow and 2 red, and so on, as you can see for the rest of the students at the different tables of group 3, 4, and 5. But when it is time for me to pull small groups in regards to these students, I'm going to pull based on their skill level and where they are. So I would pull all my green students first to a table, and I will pull them from their tables of groups 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5 in each. And then I would turn and go pull my tier 1 students that are blue based on their same ability level. Same with my yellow. But when it comes to my red, I have 11 students who are tier 3. I would definitely not pull them in 1 or 2 groups because of such the large number and the intense instruction that those students may need based on their ability level. So I would definitely look to either pull them in groups of 3 or 4 at the most within the same skill score, as well as making sure they have that same ability level as well. So now, and to do this, to have practice with it, we're going to do an activity together. And within that activity, you're going to have some sample data that you can use, as well as a grouping mat that you should be able to have to focus on and do work. So the mat has been put in the chat where you can open it up and it'll ask you to make a copy. And so when you make the copy, we're gonna put out the sample data as well too. And we go to the next slide. And so we'll ask you to share what your data was look like. So the data has been put in the chat as well too. And so in this Google document, you'll be able to group your students in groups 3, 4, or 5 based on their tier and their scale score. And then you can have it where you can take a snippet of that data that you've grouped and you can share that out as well. And I'll give you time to do that. Mr. Fowler, can we show a picture of the sample data? Justin? I know it's in the chat. Yeah, it's in the chat. Okay, so here we go. So here is a picture of that sample data. And so it's also in the chat as well. And so we'll give you time to put this together. And after you get that time putting it together of that work time, we'll ask you to share out what your thoughts are in regards to how to group the students. And we will give you about 5 minutes to do this. If there are any questions or comments or concerns while you are doing this, please let us know. Put it in the chat, come off of mute, and we will definitely work with you to help you.
I have a question.
Yes,
So you
ma'am.
want us to group them homogeneously or in different
So
tiers?
Okay, so honestly, it's whatever you like. So if you go back to the previous slide, the way on this chart, you can actually group them homogeneously and heterogeneously.
Okay.
So in the chart that you have, you can go ahead and see that it has table 1, table 2, table 3, table 4, table 5, but that is across. And then when you go down, it is heterogeneous.
Okay.
So when going down, that would be your mixed ability group.
Okay, thank you.
But making sure that when you do group them, to pull them homogeneously, that their scale scores within 100 of one another.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any questions so far? We have about 2 minutes left. Has anybody possibly grouped some students or different things of that nature of any thoughts on what you see and how you would group them and if they would like to share? I'm just doing a check-in. Okay. Thank you, Coach Ryan. Now, if there's a point where you still need more time or anything of that nature, go ahead and let me know that as well too. Because I don't want to rush anybody. We want to make sure that we have a clear understanding of what to do when it comes to grouping, because there are different ways to do this. So there's no one specific way you have to do this. Just thinking about what's best for students based on the data. As you are finishing up your data, you can go ahead and take a snippet of it and drop it in the chat so we can share and just, have a few conversations about it.
I think I can only do it if I'm sharing my screen.
All right, so is there anybody that's possibly done and would love to share how they group their students or using the snippet and put it in the chat so we can see if you need more time? That is true. That is true. So a definite suggest, okay, so if that's being the case, what would you do with Pamela? Okay, so let's see. You put Pamela, Johnny, okay, Frank. Okay, so Miss King did Pamela, Johnny, Frank, Chad, and Winona, and then Margie, Willie, Warwick. Okay. So Miss King, you basically went across and did homogeneous, and then your heterogeneous is your columns. Is that correct, Miss King? Did I analyze that the right way?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. And if you want to take a picture, and put it in the chat as well too, that's fine as well. And you can also use, the Google document that we sent as well to, save for later on when you all are doing, your groupings and different things as you begin the school year. Okay, Miss Ligon, you have. Miss Ligon, I see that you have a yellow and a blue. Is that because of that's how the students are grouped, or can you explain?
I was putting like strong students with weak students, so that
Mhm.
when they work together, you have stronger ones helping the weaker ones, because I can't be everywhere at once, so.
Right, and so that would be in your mixed ability group, just making sure that when you are pulling them for small group, that you keep them in that scale score of 100 of one another.
Okay.
That's just, a thought as well. Definitely you can have, all three tiers of students at the same table, but just making sure that when it is time, and that's heterogeneously mixing, but when it is time to pull them in small group and you're working with them, say your higher students for maybe project-based learning or different things of that nature, if they're above grade level, that you can also look, to where you're also honing in for your tier 2 and tier 3 babies based on what skill that they're at that particular need level. Thank you, Coach Mike, as well. I appreciate it. All right, so we're moving on to our next activity. And I think it is time for a break. So it is currently 10:46. We will come back at, 10:47. We'll come back at 10:52 to start. So go ahead and set your timers. Welcome back, everybody. I definitely have been looking in the chat and seeing like all the different ways that you all have been posting your groups and how you have used the grouping mask from Ms. Gonzalez, as well as oh, and I saw another one like how you all color coded it and everything. Beautiful. So use this as a good example when you're going into your beginning of the school year. Awesome. So now we're going to talk about, when does this happen? When should you be doing this within the classroom? So this should be definitely happening in the classroom for your tier 1 during small group universal instruction. Definitely. So if you're seeing those students, you can use your do nows, exit tickets, different things of that nature to really see how that works after you give your core instruction. And then for your Tier 2 students, it would be 60 minutes per week, 2 times a week for 30 minutes, or 3 times per week for 20 minutes each. And then Tier 3 would be 90 minutes per week, 2 times per week for 45 minutes each, and 3 times per week for 30 minutes. So I really don't know, because we have colleagues from all over the district. We're going to give you different examples as to how your educational block should look in regards to math. So if you're on the 60-minute or 75-minute block, you could use these variations in regards to when you would use interventions after your small group instruction. In addition to this, you should have received your participants guide, and it will have all of this information here as well too. And then you would also have your 90-minute block, as well as, okay, you need to go back to the other side. Okay, can we go back to one more slide for Coach Mike, please? Yes, sir. So just to reiterate, your tier 1 small group instruction happens during your universal instruction. Your tier 2 is for your 60 minutes per week, 2 times per week for 30 minutes each, 3 times per week for 20 minutes each. Your tier 3 instruction is 90 minutes per week, 2 times per week for 45 minutes each, or 3 times per week for 30 minutes each. So again, this is just your variations of what your instructional plan could be on your 65-minute, 75-minute, 90-minute, or 120-minute block, based on what your campus is using when it comes to your math block instruction. As well as what the schedule could definitely be as well. So in your universal, this is where the teacher is in a small group at least once a week during your universal instruction after giving that core instruction. Your tier 2 is where it's targeted, where you have your small group with your students, where you're taking the teacher 2 times a week for 30 minutes each to encompass that 60 minutes, or you have those intensive students where your tier 3 is where you're with the teacher 3 times a week for 30 minutes each, and then you can have that variation, because tier 1 happens all the time, but you just want to make sure that, you know, if you see those students who are not getting something, that you just pull them aside to see what's going on, if you need further help with that student, or that student is not grasping something. Go ahead and go to the, we will drop the link in the chat in regards to the participants guide. And that will, it probably came at the beginning, but we'll definitely post it again at the end as well too. And it'll have live links for you to be able to use. Okay, where does this take place? Oh, you're welcome. Where does this take place? So this, of course, takes place in our classrooms that you are teaching in, but within that, I mean, how does it look in? So basically, if you remember the slide where we had the grouping mat, and you all use that with the different variations of the sample data that we have, you have the teacher in the small group. And as you can see, this class has a lot of red students per se. So that teacher is pulling those students in small groups based on their ability level, while the other students are working on things in their nature that in regards to how that would look for them, for based on the skills that they need to work on in those small groups, while she's working with those students of the same ability level. And the participants guide looks like it has been already put back in the chat as well too. So this is just another example of the classroom setup. So if you look at model 1 at the top on the left-hand side, this is where normally you would see that first year teacher to where basically no differentiation is happening. And that teacher is giving all of the students the same material, same assignment, no differentiation is happening to where students are really not being met at their actual need level. And then when you're going to, you really want to try to get down to at least model 7 of that model of instruction. So where that student, the teacher is pulling students based on their need level. So where this teacher is working with them and then the other students are still working on skills that they need to work on, either with it being the classroom deficit skill or their own specific deficit skills while she's working with the other students until it's time for those students to be able to come to the table to her or him. So in the small group area, there are some essentials that you definitely need to have, such as making sure you have your whiteboards, your manipulatives, multiplication charts, hundreds charts, fraction strips, flashcards, binders, and binders are a key thing, as well as pencils, highlighters, and pre-prep activities. Why? Because you want to make sure this area is set, solid, and secure in the manner that you're not moving when it comes to that, and you have everything you need before your students come to the table with you. And so we're going to actually talk about that binder in depth in regards to that because of the simple fact that that binder is very crucial when you're talking about making sure that you're intervening with the students and having documentation for these students to show for progress monitoring purposes. So in your small group binder, you want to make sure you have your grouping list. Basically, how are you grouping your students? How are you seeing them on that homogeneous group level as far as what skill they're working with in regards to your intervention lessons? Having samples of documentations of student work and that how you're using them to show that the student is progressing or even making a student portfolio. And then within that, you have some progress monitoring forms, either tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 to show what they're doing within the work that they're doing with you while they're there. And then you can even, if you have more than one classroom, you can have a crate that has different levels next to you so where you can keep everything organized to know which students are which and which class that you're working with in that small group area. So now at this time, we would like for you all to draw what a small group. So at this time, I believe you will have a pair deck activity so where you can go ahead and join in to where you can draw what a small group will look like in the classroom. And it's just what your idea of what it would be in your classroom. And if you don't want to draw, you can either just put a word to let me know of what that would look like or how it would look. Okay, awesome. Okay. We have 20 responses. All right, thank you. Yes, I see different variations. This is all great. I appreciate you guys for participating. Oh, I love the colors right here where we have the purple, the green, the red, and then having the teacher with the same ability group students as well. Thank you for sharing. And so moving on, because I know we're running short on time already. We have a lot to still cover. Okay, so what is progress monitoring? So progress monitoring is used because we want to know how the student is making progress within the interventions that we are giving them and if this is actually working. If we need to stay in the same area that we're in, or we need to move on to another skill. So that is the purpose of progress monitoring. And so how often would you do this and where would you do it at? So again, for progress monitoring for tier 1, you would use your due nows or exit tickets as needed. And then for tier 2, it's biweekly progress monitoring, and tier 3 would be weekly. And so here are some resources that you can definitely use, because I know we have many campuses being represented in this area. We will start with the free resources that are already embedded within the Houston ISD platform, which would be Imagine Math, E-Star for elementary, M-Star for middle school, K-5 math. And then for pilot campuses, you have your Mathia as well as Eureka. Now, if you are looking also to purchase other resources, you can purchase Focus Math Interventions from Teacher Created Materials as a cost to the campus, as well as Freckle, which is a cost to the campus as well too. Now, when we're talking about piecing it together and putting it all in one, we're looking at how to decide what the definitions and illustrations of small group intervention instruction. So we know that the definition is that basically we want to target student deficit skills, making sure we're meeting them at their need level based on you doing that with the teacher being in small group with these students. So what is small group intervention and how you describe it with your characteristics? So now you're going to use the paradigm to go ahead and put a thumbs up as to what small group intervention is. Good job. Awesome. So small group intervention. Yes. Oh, oh, okay. So yes, we can see that small group intervention is targeted small groups, flexible grouping patterns, data-based instruction, independent projects tailored to students' abilities, match work to students' ability. What it is not whole group instruction. It is not reteaching of your tier 1 content, because you want to make sure that you are meeting the needs of the students at their level. It's not fixed group, because you want to have that flexible grouping, as well as it's not independent practice, nor is it all students assigned to the same activity. There's no differentiation. Differentiation and scaffolding are key. Okay, so when we talked about everything today, from what MTSS is, who do we service in this, when do we do it, where do we do it at, and why do we do it? When we look at all of these components, these all are a part of the MTSS framework. And this is how MTSS fits together. Are there any questions for us at this time in regards to what we presented to you today? No questions. Okay, I will definitely let them know. So, okay, so there are two things that we need to definitely do, that we need you to do. The first one is the MTSS attendance tracker and survey that we would need you to complete, as well as the HISD attendance tracker as well. And then as far as the dates being concerned, we will ensure that we get those dates changed so they can go ahead reflect the proper dates that you need. Yes, just please make sure that you do both surveys as well. And I will go ahead and put in our contact information as well too within the chat so you all can have it to reach us. And I am also putting our information in the chat as well so you all can have it. These are individuals that are a part of our wonderful math team. I am Dr. Acton Coleman, one of your presenters, and your other presenter was Ms. Erica Francis as well too. I will. You all are welcome.
Hello, this is Latrina. I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
On the MTSS is asking for the level and 9, and I'm sure you probably said it. I missed it. What should we pick? Because it says rise transformation, high
It's
school.
whatever school office your school is in.
Dang, I'm trying to. Okay.
What school are you at, Miss King?
Miss
at
King,
Campbell.
you're
Huh?
ESO 1.
ESO1. Okay. Thank you.
You're
No
welcome.
problem. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Make sure you complete both surveys.
I got it. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Fowler.
Who else has their hand up? You can go ahead and unmute.
Hi,
Thank
good
you.
morning. I just have a very quick question. I'm from Coop Elementary. I put a message in the chat. I was wondering what elementary school office would it be?
Hoop Elementary?
Yes, ma'am. COOP.
Okay, let me check that for you.
Coop is ESO 2.
2? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for helping. Anyone else?
Yes, I need the office for Piney Point Elementary, please.
Okay, this Winnie, I wasn't able to print off the scanner. I don't know how to do that.
Miss Winnie, I believe the attendance links were also dropped in the chat. Let me see if I can get Miss Berry Thorne to drop them in there for you again. You
I'm
can
going
just
to
click on
redrop them right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, quick question. So I filled out the MTSS with the middle school office for my school, but
Yes.
I know that my school goes from 6th grade to 12th grade, Leland College Prep.
All right,
Which
there it is.
should I
I
select?
believe that's still middle school office.
It's still middle. All right, thanks so much.
Thank you, guys. Anyone else need anything?
Yes, if you can please give me the code for Piney Point Elementary, please.
Piney Point is ESO3.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, I'm just making sure I'm not missing anything, because I think I filled out both of the forms, but mine's not asking. I hear everybody asking about a code. I didn't run across anything that's asking for a code.
It's not a code. It's just asking for which school office your school is with. It's either elementary school office 1, elementary school
Oh,
office
I see.
2.
Okay, got you.
Right. Some
Okay,
people don't know
thank
what school office their campus is a part of.
okay, thank you.
Rise or middle school office or high school office.
Okay, thank you.
That's all. Miss Gilbert, you had your hand up still. Did you need anything else?
I don't know. I don't think so. I'm filling out the form now, so I think I'm
Okay.
good.
Okay. Thank
Because
you,
I'm just
guys.
gonna do it online, right? And then it'll submit from here.
Yes, ma'am. Do both
Oh,
of them, the MTSS survey and the HISD attendance, so that you may get your
okay.
credit in one source.
Okay, then. Thank you.
Miss Naku, do you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. I just want to ask about the
Yes.
level of my school, which is
You can have,
Emerson Elementary.
Okay, hold on. I didn't hear you. What did you say, Miss Naku?
I just asked about the level that I have to put it on the sign-in sheet, which is I am in the Emerson Elementary.
Emerson. Let me try to look that up for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Ms. Dominguez, you have your hand up. Did you have a question?
I kind of have the same question as everyone else. I don't know what elementary school office I'm at. I'm at Janowski Elementary.
Okay, I'm gonna try to find the list and
You
post
got
it in the
at least
chat for you
they knew I
guys.
was
Hold
there.
on.
Is there a certain place where we can go and find that information ourselves? So you won't have to look everybody's up?
Okay, let me go back into the chat. Attendance. Did that one.
For your attendance to go through, just go ahead and just choose a school office at that time, as long as you're at the elementary level, and we'll get the actual levels for you guys and dissect it that way and analyze it when we find the list for you guys. But you can just choose any elementary school office, and but you'll still get the credit as to where you are based on your ID and everything else that you put in.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Here is a copy of the participants guide as well. I put it in the chat, so hopefully that will open up. So just Indy? Yes.